Hi there, my name's Carrie. I'm with All About Owls, and today we're here to teach you about a few of the local owls we have right here in our neighborhood. I'm joined by Booho, our western screech owl, and he's being handled by Mary Anna. And Gazoo, our great horned owl, who's being handled by Linda. So our name is All About Owls, and that's essentially what we are, is we are teaching our local neighborhoods about the owls we have right here in our community and how we can step in and protect our local wildlife. So we do this in a few different ways. One is we build nest boxes. So this little nest box is the right size for about a western screech owl or other small birds, and this provides a safe nesting house for these guys when they are nesting in the wild. This is somewhere safe that they can lay their eggs, have their babies, feed their babies, and it just provides them an extra home. Because sometimes there's not enough trees or other things in the area, so this is an extra nesting site for them that we can provide. And we advise people on the best way to put these nesting boxes in their neighborhoods or in their backyards if it's large enough. One other thing that we do is if these guys in the wild face all different sorts of challenges along the way. So maybe somebody trims their tree and baby birds or baby owls or hawks or other raptors fall out of a tree. You can always call us. We can walk you through with good advice, maybe even provide transport if those owls need to go to a local wildlife rehab hospital. And this is all part of our kind of raptor rescue and reunite, where we'll actually help everyone out if these guys have problems in the wild, whether that's going to the rehab center or coming back out of the rehab center and maybe being put back into their original nests. If possible, we actually have professional tree climbers who will help us out reuniting these birds to their nest. So these are all different ways that we help out these birds right here in our neighborhood. Now, occasionally these birds, sometimes we have some really great video to share with you of this. These birds cannot be returned to their nest in the wild. So in that case, we have these different nesting boxes on site at a few of our volunteers' homes. And we will actually put the baby birds, those orphan birds, in the nest box. And that provides them a safe home, drop off food for them until they're ready to go out and fly and fledge on their own. So we have all different ways that we hope to educate about these guys. Now, Now, the two beautiful birds you see in front of me, these are non-releasable birds that live with us permanently for the rest of their life. Now, in Booho's case, you might notice his eyes look a little different. They're actually permanently dilated. So he got an injury out in the wild. We're not exactly sure what happened since he can't tell us, but this caused his eyes to be permanently dilated, so he can't see that well. So it would be really hard if you're a wild bird and you need to hunt and really rely on all of your senses to stay safe out there and find food if you can't see. So he ended up at a wildlife rehab center. Once he was deemed unreleasable, we were able to step in and give him a good home for the rest of his life. So he is able to come out, meet our community, so you can learn about western screech owls because they're not always easy to spot in the wild. And he has a nice home to live where we'll take good care of him. Now, Gazoo, our big girl over here, our great horned owl, these are ones that sometimes you'll spot more often in the wild just because they're big. They make that classic hoo-hoo noise when you think of an owl. And you can find them pretty much everywhere. They are really adaptable. They find all different places to live. Now, Gazoo was found up in Oregon with a wing injury, so that prevents her from being able to fly anymore. And of course, a wild owl really relies on flying to be able to get around, stay safe, and be able to hunt for their food. So that's why Gazoo wasn't able to be released back out into the wild, how she found a permanent home with us. Now, owls are amazing animals, as you can see. So I was gonna say, what would you notice when you look at these guys? So the first thing I notice is they look like they have little horns or ear tufts on top of their head. And lots of times people think these are their ears, but they're actually not their ears. They are just feathers, but they might actually direct sound down towards where their ear openings actually are. Their ears are not external the way you and I's are. So they're actually covered, these little ear holes underneath all the feathers, and they're not perfectly symmetrical either. They're actually staggered a bit on each side of the head, and this allows them to get a real wide range of sound all around them. So these guys are hunting at night. That's called nocturnal, so they're active at night. And being able to hear really, really well is a great survival skill for them, because they can hear that tiny little mouse or other prey item go by being able to direct that sound very closely, so they can hear everything all around them. Now, the next thing I notice when I look at these birds are their big, beautiful eyes. So as we mentioned, they are nocturnal or active at night, so being able to see when it's dark outside is very, very important. So these eyes are quite spectacular, work very, very well, much better than you and I's eyes, and they take up a considerable amount of their skull. So if you see one of our owl skulls that we have here, you can see their eye sockets, just how large they are. So those eyes are big, they work super well, and they take up a good amount of space inside that little skull there. So they look like a lot of bird, but you can see underneath they're actually pretty tiny under all those feathers. So they have excellent eyesight to help them out with being nocturnal and hunting at night. Now, as I continue to look at the birds, the next thing I notice is their beautiful feathers. So their feathers are all different colors, and you can imagine when you look at these birds and you look at this tree behind us, how excellent camouflage they must have. So these guys, of course, are asleep in the day and awake at night. So they might be perched in a tree close by to you, and you might not even notice them because they're so still, so quiet, and they camouflage right into the tree bark with all those beautiful colors. Now, for a little screech owl, these guys are called cavity nesters, which means that they would be hanging out in a tree cavity or other opening, or maybe even in a screech owl box if there's one available nearby. And often they'll sleep right in the opening of that screech owl box. And since they're kind of in a little cavity and sort of shadowed with the tree bark, you might not even see them. They have excellent camouflage. Now, great horned owls like Gazelle, these guys are too big for most tree cavities, and they are not cavity nesters. In fact, they will usually find a nest that's already built by maybe a crow or a raven or a hawk, and they will just take that over. They can be the neighborhood bully occasionally. So often when they are nesting during the day, they are cozied up on a tree branch and the tree trunk. And same thing, their camouflage is so excellent that you might not even see them coming by. Now, continuing as we go down the birds, one of the other things I notice about them is those sharp talons on their feet. So these, you might see as we have one of the examples here from a barn owl, which is another similar type owl to these guys. They are very long toes and very sharp nails. So you can imagine this helps them be able to grab prey items or things that they eat from the ground because they have these very strong feet and sharp nails. So that helps them be able to find and catch food out in the wild. So you might be wondering, what do owls eat? So they are a little different than us. They are strict carnivores, which means they're eating meat and meat only, whereas most people are omnivores. We eat a little bit of everything. These guys, fruits and vegetables would actually make them ill. So they have to eat meat and meat only, and they have to eat whole prey items. So not the way that maybe I eat my chicken, which is cleaned and cooked and seasoned. They want it completely raw, with everything, fur and bones and everything included on that animal. So these guys would be catching different prey items based on their size out in the wild, which is great because every predator has its prey item, and that keeps everything in balance out in nature. So for a little screech owl, they would also be catching smaller things. So they might be catching a small rodent, like a little mouse, maybe a little tiny gopher, and they can also catch different insects out in the wild. So they would be going after smaller prey items. Now, a great horned owl, these guys are adaptable. So anything that they can find out in the wild, they might catch. So they would be catching rats and mice if that's what they found. They might also catch a rabbit or a skunk. which that sounds stinky to you and me to catch a skunk, PU. But these guys don't actually smell the way you and I do. They do not have a strong sense of smell at all. So catching a skunk or even getting sprayed on by a skunk would not bother gazelle or great horned owls out in the wild because they can't smell it. So these guys are really cool animals. And we have them right here in our neighborhood. We're so lucky to have them in the North Bay area. Screech owls, great horned owls, barn owls, and all different sorts of raptors. And they do a great job. They actually help people. So most people don't want mice and rats and other pests near their home because they can eat things, cause trouble, and you certainly don't want a mouse in your home. That would be maybe a little surprising. So these guys are doing a great job out in the wild by being able to catch these animals. So we want to help them out by protecting the environment too. So since they provide good rodent balance by being able to catch those rodents nearby, we want to make sure we're providing them space. So if you have a big tree in your yard and you don't have to cut it down, then don't, because that's a great home for lots of animals, including owls. If you have open space near your home and it doesn't have to be built on, maybe by your city, then maybe they don't have to build on it. If you write them a letter or do something to do a nice positive change in your neighborhood, and we can protect that space for all of our wildlife that we have close by, including owls. Other things that we can do other than protecting the habitat for all of our owl friends is by not using rat poisons or other things that are dangerous for birds. So rat poisons, the rats eat, and of course that affects the rat because it poisons them, but it also affects every other animal that might eat that poisoned rodent. So if an owl eats it, the owl could get sick as well and possibly even die. But any animal, all of our local wildlife tends to eat a lot of rodents. So foxes, bobcats, other hawks and raptors, they also will eat those poisoned rodents, and that can cause a lot of damage in our food chain. So if you have a rodent problem near your house, you want to make sure you use just safe alternatives. So you might be able to use a nesting box, and you can always call us and we can help walk you through that process if you have the right space for it. You can also use safe traps that are humane, that don't cause other problems out in the wild. And you can also always use exclusion, which is a fancy word for saying you take away everything that a rat or a mouse might find appealing. So if you feed your dogs or cats outdoors, you want to bring their kibble in at nighttime. If you have a fruit tree and it's dropping apples and other fruit in your yard, you just want to clean it up so that they don't have lots of food available for rodents and other things to come near your yards, then they have no reason to be there. Now, if you're lucky enough to spot an owl out in the wild, how amazing would that be? It's a great chance to just give them space and enjoy from a nice distance. So if you spot an owl maybe in your yard or out on a nature walk, just enjoy that opportunity and give them lots of space so they don't feel crowded by people. And you can make sure you can tell all your friends what a cool thing you saw out on your nature walk. All right, well again, my name's Carrie from All About Owls. Thank you so much for watching our video today. We want to thank the Children's Museum of Sonoma County for having us out, and we hope to see you guys in person real soon. Thank you.